Hi guys, so the polar opposites of Brexit, Nigel Farage, the former leader of the Brexit Party, and John Bercow, the former Speaker of the House of Commons, clashed over a poll that points to all but a few constituencies now thinking that Brexit was a mistake. The two men jousted quite a bit throughout this interview, and I'll leave a link to the full video in the description of this one. But John Bercow really got under Nigel Farage's skin here, and it was wonderful to see. Have a listen to this.
That's debauch, that's state capitalism. With Nigel, instead of taking it on the chin and recognising that in fact to date it has been a grotesque blunder and the biggest foreign policy mistake of the post-war period, what Nigel wants to do, because he can't abandon the religiosity of his lifelong support for Brexit, is to blame someone else. So it's mysterious forces. It's, if you like, a fifth or sixth estate. It's those Machiavellian types working night and day to frustrate the will of the British people or the designs of Farage. I mean, really, it is nonsense on stilts, Nigel. And to be honest, I say to you in all politeness and candour, you can do a bit better than that. Why not start by admitting, first, that people are poorer, wages are down. Foreign direct investment has slumped. Sterling has taken a permanent 10% hit. The economy has been hit to the tune of about 100 billion.
Okay, well, let's bring Nigel in for some of the... Because other people might say COVID had that impact. So let's bring Nigel in.
Remember what Brexit's about. Remember the big point of Brexit is to be a self-governing democratic nation. And that means you can get things right and you can get things wrong.
So... £100 billion a year hit to the economy, 4% drop in GDP, businesses not able to access the workers they need, social care creating problems for the NHS because it doesn't have access to the workers it needs either, the problems of importing and exporting, the fact that there are businesses in Europe when they hear that a supplier is from the UK, they hang up the phone basically. That's all worth it because Nigel Farage believes that the country could take back control, even though it had control, and that it would now have sovereignty. But it did have sovereignty. So you've thrown all of this out. You've created all of this damage to gain something you already had. Now, Farage can't admit that there are economic problems as a consequence of Brexit because it's a religion. I don't know whether Farage actually believes all of this or he's pretending to believe. And this is my big problem with a lot of these commentators and politicians. I don't know if they are stupid or they're pretending to be stupid. I don't know if they're lying or they're actually convinced of what they're saying. It can be difficult to identify which it is. But Farage told people back in 2016, everything will be better. You can't get access to the NHS, don't worry. Once we leave the EU, that will be resolved. The fishing communities, you're struggling at the moment. You have all these foreign fishing boats coming in. Don't worry. Once we leave the EU, you'll be able to access all the waters you want, be able to sell your fish as before. Don't worry, there'll be nothing to worry about. Everything will be wonderful. And now that it isn't, now that businesses are struggling, to import and export, to get access to the workers they need, does he admit that Brexit is at fault? No, of course not. He blames somebody else. Oh, it's the Remainers in Whitehall who never believed in Brexit. It's Tory MPs and Tory prime ministers who didn't truly believe in Brexit, or it's the Chancellor of the Exchequer that didn't believe in Brexit. So it's always somebody else's fault, but never blame Brexit. That's a cult mentality. For example, when it comes to the EU, I have a lot of criticisms of the EU, and I'm fully willing to talk about them. But the problem with Brexiteers like Nigel Farage is they can never criticize Brexit. They can't say anything wrong about it because the entire house of cards falls down. The lie is exposed. Once you find a little crack, the whole thing collapses. And he can't do that. He's built his entire political career on this wonderful idea, this dream, this cult, and reality is tearing it apart, but he's standing on this little shred that's left, claiming that everything is great, everything is wonderful. And if it isn't, it's not because of Brexit, it's because it hasn't been implemented correctly, or it's been thwarted by people who never believed it in the first place, even if they campaigned for it, like Rishi Sunak. It's pathetic. But the positive about all of this is that support for Farage's idea of Brexit is getting smaller and smaller, and it's eventually going to get so small it will be just him believing it. As I said, I'll leave a link to the full video, and I do recommend watching it. But let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.